Jackie Rosser and Ed Postma share an instant sexual attraction.
I don't know, I guess he had a little bit of a bad boy thing going on, and she's always been drawn to kind of a bad boy look.
I guess they hit it off right away, really right away, as in the first night.
A hasty pregnancy seals the deal.
You know, he wanted to settle down, have a family, and do right in life. And that's what he was doing.
But when this bad boy turns good, there are others waiting in the wings.
She started getting bored with him, that's all I could ever think.
Been arrested like a dozen times.
If you wanted to fight, he was gonna give it to you. No holds barred.
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. Ed Postma grows up in Tampa, Florida in the 1980s with his father, Ren, and his stepmom, Carla, who steps in after Ed's biological mother leaves him.
She had moved and dropped out of his life, and after a period of years, he really didn't care to see her. He said, "I've got my mom."
Carla's two sons, Sean and Charles, round out this happy blended family.
He always introduced me to all of his friends as, hey, this is my little brother. You know, we just threw the whole step thing away. You know, we got really close.
We'd always go out doing stuff, you know, fishing, hunting, whatever we could find to do.
He was a typical teenager. He got into minor scrapes and whatever, as children do. He was really kind of a good kid. Became a pretty close-knit family.
Ed loves his family.
Hey, Georgia.
And the ladies.
Hey, Rosalie.
Ed was supremely confident and cocky.
You know, he'd have a girlfriend come to the house, and then probably a month later, you know, you wouldn't see her again.
He would date off and on, but he really didn't get too terribly serious about anybody.
But there's one thing Ed does get very serious about.
He always had his head underneath the hood of a car and was always tinkering with it.
My dad would bring home an old junk truck, and they'd take it completely apart and put it back together like brand new.
After high school, at the age of 22, Ed enrolls in a trade school to become a professional mechanic.
I want you to meet somebody.
Which leads him to meet a girl unlike any he's met before.
Hi, I'm Jackie.
What attracted him to Jackie initially, and this was his words, was those baby doe brown eyes. She was his instructor's stepdaughter, and he'd met her through him.
Well, she was kind of fun-loving, and she would do about anything for fun, just like Ed would.
My sister's awful cute. She has a way about her. She's very attractive to men. She just draws them in, and I don't really know how she does it, but she does it.
There's an instant spark, and Ed is immediately hooked.
She had red curly hair, and she was slender, and she was just like the type that Ed would like.
He was very handsome, and I don't know, I guess he had a little bit of a bad boy thing going on, and she's always been drawn to kind of a bad boy look.
Hey! Get away from me! No!
I guess they hit it off right away. Really right away, as in the first night.
But it turns out Jackie is part of a package deal.
Hey, Mom. Come in here. I want you to meet somebody.
I came home from work, and there was a baby there. And I went, okay, whose kid? Oh, that's Jackie's. He was 9 months old at the time. And I went, oh. Ed said, yeah, I really didn't know at first either, but isn't he cute?
She quit school at 16. She was married at 17. She wanted to be somebody's mom, and she wanted somebody to take care of her. That was the way she was.
Hey, thanks so much for letting us stay here. This is really great of you
They
guys.
move
Mom,
fast,
great.
Just weeks after they meet, Jackie and her baby son move in with the Postmas.
It was never, you know, oh, this is my girlfriend and bringing her over. It was more like, this is my girlfriend, here she is, and she's never going away. Just one day she was there.
Well, it was like she spent the night and never left. And adding a baby to the house, that was different. And I said, well, apparently they have no place to go. And we couldn't turn people away that had no place to go.
When it comes to the Postmas, Jackie aims to please.
She could bake like nobody's business. She was a superb cake maker and muffin maker and bread maker.
And I know I had a problem one time with this kid that lived down the street when I was young. I was probably 13, 14.
What happened?
We were going to fight, and he was going to jump me with like 3 kids. So I run back, told her, and she come out there by herself and was going to take all 3 of them on, made them all run.
Let's go get them.
She grew a lot of trust into me, put a lot of trust into her.
Not surprisingly, Jackie and her baby are a burden to Ed's parents, Carla and Ren, who are strapped enough for cash as it is.
Nobody was working. We were doing all the supporting.
And she didn't have a high school diploma. So it made it difficult for her to find a decent job.
This is not working. She has to go now.
And finally it got to where my parents told her, you know, you can't be here no more, because they were arguing all the time, and she was starting problems with the family.
You're gonna say anything? Fine.
Maybe we're moving too fast.
Go to hell.
I know they had some rough times the first couple months they were together, and I know Ed was kind of trying to push her away, you know.
Jackie finally agrees to leave, but she doesn't go far.
She was living in her car across the street from our house with the baby.
This kept leeching on Ed for some reason. She wouldn't go away.
You know what? Forget it.
That reason soon becomes obvious.
I don't know what to say.
Jackie is pregnant.
She told Ed that he was the father. And this was right about the time that they had gotten together. And I think he took it as, okay, well, you're not going to leave. We might as well try to make things work.
You're gonna be a great dad.
Ed was always good with kids. Ed couldn't stand the idea of a kid growing up without a dad around.
That made up, you know, repaired their differences and started back together again.
They finally eventually got their own place, and it seemed like things kind of smoothed out from there.
As the months pass, bad boy Ed turns into a responsible boyfriend. He prepares for fatherhood.
That was going to be the end of it. You know, the end of all the partying and all the girl chasing and things like that.
Take care of my brother.
Psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser and forensic psychologist Brian Russell can understand why Ed is so devoted to his new family.
A lot of people wonder why Ed, at 22 years old, would be willing to take Jackie and her son in. But I don't wonder at all. It's part of his character. He's a loyal, family-oriented person, and he wants to settle down, and this is the perfect family, all built into one person.
It's a little bit unusual for a 22-year-old man in today's world to want to hurry up and have marriage and family. I wondered if Ed wasn't maybe even trying to vicariously fix the maternal abandonment that he had gone through by creating a nuclear family earlier in life than a lot of guys really want to.
But this nuclear family is about to explode. After Jackie gives birth, to everyone's surprise, she and Ed put the baby up for adoption.
They just weren't in a position where they could take care of another child.
We just don't feel that we can provide the home.
Money may be one motive, but family members believe there's another reason the couple gives away the baby.
When the baby was born, they had only been together maybe 7 months at that point of time, and it was a full-term baby.
I know he probably in his heart didn't think it was his baby.
Aspiring mechanic Ed Postma falls for Jackie Rosser, a divorced single mother. Money's tight, and they decide to give their newborn baby up for adoption. Despite this rocky start, they're dedicated to making the marriage work. A year into the relationship, Ed gets a job as a truck mechanic. Things are definitely looking up.
He was an excellent mechanic and a great person and easy to get along with, no troubles whatsoever.
Good job today, man. Appreciate that.
Ed and his new family moved to Bradenton, Florida, to be closer to Ed's new job.
Bradenton is kind of a working class community. There are fishing villages nearby, a lot of factories, a lot of trucking.
It's at least a good hour, hour and a half from where the rest of the family was.
But for Ed, keeping close ties to his family is a priority.
They were always at our house.
They hung out with his family a great deal, a lot of family picnics. He treated her son like he was his own. They just had a very enjoyable life.
Ed's family is delighted to see Jackie's warmth and affection.
She seemed to really, really love Ed.
They just had some good times together where they were affectionate a lot.
In fact, they can't seem to keep their hands off each other.
She would come down there and they would go out there in the car and fool around and do that kind of stuff. And, you know, they weren't descriptive, but, you know, you could kind of put two and two together. Of course, he didn't do this when he was on the clock or anything like that.
Hey.
Hey, Jackie, can I talk to you for a second? I got something in the mail. It's really convenient.
But some suspect that Jackie is hiding something.
It's a letter from the hospital, and it says that the baby was full term, but I thought it
When the baby was born, we counted out the months, and they had only been together maybe 7 months at that point of time. But she kept saying the baby came early. And she kept Ed with that belief.
He's wrong. He's probably just wrong. They do mistakes all the time.
After 5 years, Ed and Jackie marry in a civil ceremony. Jackie's family is there, but not Ed's.
He called us, and he says, "We got married yesterday." We go, "Oh, you did?"
I was kind of like, wow. Nice to you to invite me. And it did surprise me a little bit, but I guess it shouldn't have. They'd been together for quite a few years by that time.
We just took it, okay. If this is what you want, you've done it.
This is a red flag for me. It makes me wonder, is Ed's family not supporting this relationship? Do they not like Jackie? What's going on here that they wouldn't come to their son's wedding?
I think it's generally best for the success of any couple, including Ed and Jackie, if from day one their union has the support of the families on both sides.
Maybe it's because of these family tensions, but Ed immerses himself in his work.
He used to work, you know, to 5, 6 o'clock for me, and then he'd go work on these other guys' trucks to 6, 8, 10 o'clock at night.
What?
Hey, I miss you.
Listen, you gotta stop calling me here, okay?
Jackie's patience starts wearing thin.
You know, she would argue with him that he worked too much, and well, that wasn't going to keep him from working, of course, you know, because that was his job. It's what he had to do.
Have a good day.
As the months pass, rumors start to fly. It seems Jackie has found a new way to fill her days.
One of his buddies come over to his house while he was at work, and I guess Jackie opened the door in a lingerie or something. Don't know if anything happened out of it, but the buddy come back bragging to Ed about it. And of course, he went back and asked her, and she told him it wasn't true. And there was some talk about her sleeping with the landlord, but don't know how true that was either.
Ed finally opens up to his family about the baby he and Jackie put up for adoption 2 years earlier.
I don't know what to do.
He finally admitted to us that he knew that the baby wasn't his. He just said, "Yeah, I knew it wasn't mine."
She lied to me.
I know he probably in his heart didn't think it was his baby. Told me flat out he couldn't trust her no more. I told him, you know, if you're not happy, if you think things are going on, you know, you gotta do what you feel in your heart. If you feel like you need to leave and get away, that's what you gotta do.
But Ed decides to stay.
Ed stayed with her because of the little boy. That's about the only reason he stayed. He didn't want to see what would happen to him if he wasn't there to help guide things along.
But he didn't want to break the family up, which is understandable.
It's very possible that he's truly taken with her and connected to her. It's also possible that his sense of loyalty and family is really coming through here, and that he wants to try and stay and make it work.
Obligation between two people can be a powerful bonding force, and it can cause those people to stay together for a significant period of time, but it's not a great foundation for a truly healthy long-term relationship.
In 1998, 3 years after the wedding, Ed is given another reason to stay. Jackie's pregnant, again.
He was excited. He really was.
But lingering doubts will soon resurface.
He thought she was out fooling around.
Ed had a 2-second temper and would fight at the drop of a hat, anybody's hat.
Ed and Jackie Postma are married and expecting their first child together. The pregnancy is a much-needed boost for their strained relationship. It also eases some of the tensions with her in-laws, Ren and Carla.
We'd watch the baby grow within her, and we didn't really still put our whole trust in her, but there was more love coming from us to her. Of course, this was the first born baby grandchild of ours, so when she'd ask for something for the baby, I'd just go out and get it, because we were really excited about being grandparents.
Jackie's excited too.
She loved her children. She liked being pregnant. She loved babies.
And this time, when Jackie gives birth to a daughter, there's no doubt about who the father is.
She's cute. She's so cute.
But when the little girl was born, she looked so much like Ren's mother, it was scary.
He was a great father to him. You know, every day after work, he'd come home, spend time with them, and the kids had a good life.
By the year 2000, Ed and Jackie are ready to move their growing family into a bigger place.
I don't know. You tell me.
They find a house in a subdivision called Fresh Meadows, but it's more than Ed can afford.
He lived from week to week, really. He never borrowed from me, but I know he borrowed from some of my mechanics.
He said, we gotta have some money. We can't save enough money to put a down payment on a home.
Ed actually asked me if I would co-sign the loan for him.
I'd be honored if you would co-sign for us.
You're the best mechanic I got. I'm sorry, I just can't.
What?
She got the money for the down payment on their home from her uncle that she had promised to pay back.
We can still get it.
The house is theirs. First-time homeowner Ed is proud beyond words.
It was a nice house. Had a nice backyard, had a 2-stall garage attached. It was practically brand new. He wanted a nice place for his little girl to grow up. Ed's expectation was, me man, you woman.
Soon the family settles into a comfortable routine. Ed takes care of making the money, but Jackie's domain is the house and kids.
I didn't think she was that good of a housekeeper, you know, because every time I went out to the house, the dishes were laying in the sink, and, you know, the place was a little mess.
I'm going, what's the problem here?
The new house was supposed to be a new beginning, but old tensions start to reemerge.
They had gotten into a really bad fight one weekend. And he just showed up at the house and he had both the kids. And he said, we're fighting He said, can we stay for the weekend? We said, yeah, sure, no problem. And he says, I'm kind of getting tired of her stuff.
Jackie's also losing patience, frequently.
You're crazy.
Just if the kids would do the littlest things wrong, she would get mad and yell at them and, you know, spank him sometimes when they shouldn't have been spanked.
And when Ed's stepbrother Sean and his family move in temporarily, the strain reaches a fever pitch.
There was a lot of tensions in that house. My girlfriend, her kids, me. The house wasn't meant for that many people.
Ed, who works 60 hours a week just to make ends meet, doesn't want to talk about it.
All right, you give her back the remote. Just moved in here.
He's sort of becoming this Superman. He's working a lot of hours, he's got a great home, he's taking care of the children. And so it's a way for him to look at himself and say, despite what's going on with my wife, I still have some things to feel good about.
But it also may be that he really did believe that if he could just earn enough, if he could just work hard enough, if he could just provide enough, that somehow that would make the marriage work out. And usually, that will not make it work out.
All the while, Jackie makes frequent trips to visit her mother, who lives 80 miles away and suffers from Parkinson's disease.
So she was up there like every weekend or every other weekend, almost all the time. Almost all the time she was up there.
At least, that's what Jackie claims. Her cell phone statements show repeated calls to a mysterious number, stoking Ed's old suspicions.
He thought she was out fooling around.
Ed is right. For months, Jackie has been seeing 35-year-old truck driver Michael Cordes, a real bad boy, with a very real rap sheet, auto theft and forgery.
He was a good-looking fella, you know, grizzly a bit, you know, tough guy. Maybe she wanted that.
Jackie and Michael had been carrying on as a couple for quite some time. They had called each other boyfriend and girlfriend. They would hold hands. They would show mutual affection to each other.
Instead of confronting Jackie, Ed just withdraws.
When stuff was going bad, he would hide it, you know, just because of his personality, how he is.
Guys in particular are less vocal when their marriages aren't going well, when they're feeling depressed about anything. Guys tend to turn it inward more than women do, and Ed may be doing that.
Ed is angry, he has a lot to be angry about. He's a single parent, basically. He's a sole provider, and he's not expressing this. He doesn't have an outlet. He's just busy distracting himself. And so it's making him emotionally flattened. It's destroying him.
Hey, great barbecue, buddy.
I knew something was wrong because Ed got very quiet and, you know, he was by himself a lot.
Well, I just knew it had something to do with Jackie because she wasn't there, her absence. I think it really bothered him and hurt him. I could see the sadness in his eyes.
As his anger simmers, Jackie leaves with the children for a couple of days to take care of her ailing mother.
Her Parkinson's was starting to get worse and worse and worse, and she had to have surgery, so my sister came up and took care of her. Because she didn't work, the rest of us did. She had freedom to do whatever she wanted.
Now Ed is the lonely one.
Ed said, I want some quality family time. He goes, Dad, can you stay for a while yet? And he goes, well, yeah.
Ed's father and stepmother drive down for a visit and find the house in a shambles.
Where's your wife? I went, how could you treat such a beautiful home like this?
Days have turned to weeks with no sign of Jackie or the kids.
I said, so when's she coming back? He goes, well, her mom's surgery was postponed. I said, oh, okay.
He'd call up there and she wasn't there. So he knew something was going on, I think.
Things just didn't add up right.
The kid's been out of school for over a month. How can she do that?
I don't know. I mean, the kids look.
And when we were coming home that night, I just told Ren, I said, something is not right. Something is just terribly, terribly, terribly wrong.
Ed waits for Jackie to return on the night of their 5th wedding anniversary, August 18th, 2000.
And she had been gone already for 2 weeks, I believe, and she was supposed to be coming home that night.
Their anniversary comes and goes, and still no Jackie.
I told him to come to the house. I said, you can't spend that night by yourself here.
Ed, ever faithful, decides to stay and wait. Jackie never calls. But soon Ed will get a call, and it'll change his life.
And I said, what about the kids? What about Jackie and the kids? Are they okay?
I heard that scream, and that's something you never want to hear.
Ed and Jackie Postma's marriage is riddled with mistrust and suspicion. Jackie has left on an extended visit to see her ailing mother, or so she says. Ed suspects an affair. Still waiting for his wife to return, Ed is called out on a mysterious errand near Duet, Florida.
Duet is a remote, desolate area in northeast Manatee County. There's not a lot of traffic, there's not a lot of businesses, there's not a lot of people.
There's simply a convenience store / gas station called the Oasis.
It's nearly midnight when Ed hits the road, and he drives into a nightmare. Early the next morning, a woman stops at the Oasis to change her baby's diaper. She stumbles onto something horrific.
It was particularly cold-blooded and gruesome.
Police are called to the scene.
They don't know what they have on their hands. Is it a random murder? Is it a robbery? Is it somebody that knows the person?
Police came to our house Monday morning and asked if we were the parents of Ed Postma. And they said, your son's been murdered.
Saw my mom and I heard that scream. And that's something you never want to hear.
And I said, murdered how? I said, was it road rage?
Ed Postma had suffered 4 gunshot wounds.
In the temple, in the back of the head, the front of the head. And then there was a graze at the top of his head.
On top of that, Ed's throat was slashed twice.
If someone was looking at this murder, they would think that it was perpetrated by someone who was emotionally connected to Ed, someone who wanted him killed for emotional reasons.
It was done up close and personally, as if the killer wanted either to be seen and maybe recognized by Ed, or to look into Ed's face while they did it.
And I said, what about the kids? What about Jackie and the kids? Are they okay?
The police tell Carla that Jackie and the kids are safe at home, but Carla needs to see them just to be sure.
We didn't know what was going on. We had no idea why anybody would want to murder Ed. Sweet little guy that he was.
I couldn't imagine who would do that. I thought it had to be some kind of robbery or something, you know.
Detectives immediately start talking to everyone in Ed's family, starting with Jackie.
As a normal procedure, when a spouse is killed, you go to the other spouse. Did he have any enemies? What can you tell us about his lifestyle? What information can you possibly shed on this? She repeatedly said, I can't imagine what Ed was doing out there at that location at that hour.
Are you seeing anybody? You're having affairs? No, 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 no.
She denies having an affair and points a finger at someone very close to her husband, Sean McGlamory, Ed's stepbrother.
They used to fight a lot.
She just said that he and Ed had had problems over the years, and that there was some animus between them.
She was alluding to the police that we were in fist fights and rolling on the ground and all that. From what I understand, they never even thought it was serious. Him and I had never thrown a punch in anger, ever at each other.
Detectives interview the rest of Ed's entourage, but none of them seem to know anything about why Ed was in Duet that night.
Did I send Ed anywhere the night he got killed? I said, no, I didn't talk to him the whole weekend.
At that point, they didn't have any suspects initially.
A week after he's found at the Oasis gas station, Ed's family lays him to rest.
It was a nice funeral. They had a lot of people there, a lot of people, a lot of his friends, a lot of the drivers.
I don't think there was a dry eye in the house, you know.
Jackie is especially distraught.
During the funeral, you know, she cried and sobbed, and she held my hand the whole time. And
She was very sick. At the time, we didn't know why she was sick, but she was very sick, and she was very weepy.
A week after the funeral, Jackie announces that she's pregnant.
We felt very bad for her, knowing that she had a rough life ahead of her, being a widow with 2 children. And we were happy that she was pregnant. And we said, well, maybe it's the son that Ed always wanted of his own.
I remember the Postma were going over and mowing the lawn. They were helping her out. Everyone seemed to be, going over there, consoling her.
I'd say, have you been out of the house? No. Okay, let's go to the store. Just spend some time, get away from the house a little bit, get your mind off from things, because we were trying to comfort her as much as we could.
With another child on the way and desperate for money, Jackie asks Ed's boss about their $50,000 employee life insurance policy.
She called there just about every day, wanted to know how soon she could collect his insurance.
While the claim is being processed, the company sets up a fund to help the grieving widow.
Drivers used to come and put money in there, $20 bills, $100 bills, and truck drivers ain't rich people, or if they see somebody in trouble, they like to help out, and they're very good about it.
She went around 2 or 3 times a week and emptied out the jars.
Jackie takes to the streets and distributes ribbons in memory of Ed. Her message is clear.
She wouldn't rest until his murder was solved.
5 weeks after the murder, detectives call Jackie down to the station for another round of questioning. To her surprise, they've learned a thing or two since the murder.
Fairly early on in the investigation, it became known that Jackie was involved in an extramarital affair with Michael Cortez.
By now, Jackie's affair with Michael has been going on for about a year.
Mike was a lifelong criminal, petty theft here, passing bad checks, stealing cars from girlfriends. Not exactly, your model citizen.
When confronted by the evidence that the police already knew, and that at that point it was better tactically for her to acknowledge the obvious than to continue to deny it.
I guess.
After several grueling hours, Jackie finally admits to the affair. And that's not all.
Hello? What? Oh, slow down.
I'm broken down out here in Duet. I'm at the Oasis. And being the good husband that he was, unsuspectingly, he drove out there to help her.
No, I'll be right there.
Under further questioning, she actually admits that, yes, I sent them out there, but it was just to talk to Ed, to scare him, to let him know that I'm seeing Michael and that we're going to move forward in that direction.
Calm down. What are you doing up there? Okay.
Mike was supposed to tell Ed this and then beat him up to make sure that Ed got the message.
But when Ed arrives, Jackie is nowhere in sight.
Jackie!
Testimony was that instead, he's confronted by Michael Cortez with a gun pointed at him. At that point, he realizes what's going on.
Ed charged cords, yelled, "You dumb son of a b," and went after him. That was Ed. I mean, if you wanted to fight, he was going to give it to you. No holds barred.
According to Jackie, Michael took their plan one step too
You don't
far.
have to do this.
And at that point, Michael Cortez shoots him 4 times in the head. He falls to the ground. She was traumatized by the death of her husband. She never planned for it, so she was distraught, and that's why she didn't fully cooperate with the police right away.
Finally, she comes clean enough to say that, well, maybe she did intend for him to be hurt but not killed, and the guys took it too far. She never really takes responsibility for the role that she played in the fact that her husband is now deceased.
I think that she believes that if she tells a story and it's convincing enough, that they will believe her story and not dig any deeper and find out if there's more guilt there.
But the plot thickens. Jackie reveals that Michael had an accomplice, 30-year-old Todd Martin, whom Michael met while in prison.
You said we were just gonna scare him, man.
He brought Todd Martin along for backup because Ed's a strong guy.
Jackie tells the cops that Cordis asked Todd to finish the job.
He then says to Todd Martin, I'm not sure he's dead. I need you to cut his jugulars, and hands him a fillet knife.
Do it!
He does as Cordis requests him to do. He cuts Ed Postma's throat.
Police arrest Cordis and Martin the same day that Jackie confesses. They're charged with Ed's murder and booked into the Manatee County Jail. With no evidence of her involvement in the murder, Jackie is free to go. But police urge her to come clean to the Postmas.
They said, Jackie, it'd be better for you if you told them.
Hello? They were only supposed to beat him up.
I said, what did he do that needed to be beat up over?
Because
She claimed that he raped her and was abusive and things, and I don't know if she was trying to get sympathy. Violent and rape? Wasn't him.
She goes, oh, please don't hate me. And I hung up. That was the last time I spoke with her.
Jackie's plea for sympathy falls on deaf ears, especially when another witness comes forward, blowing the case wide open.
And that's when everything started unfolding.
Ed Postma is found brutally murdered, and while his wife Jackie confesses to luring him there, she claims that her lover was just meant to scare him, not kill him. But an accomplice to the crime is about to come forward to explain what really happened that fateful night.
I cut his throat like he was already...
Todd Martin admits that he and Michael Cordis drove to Winter Haven to meet Jackie on the night of Ed's murder. The plan, according to Todd, was to have Ed beaten up.
Jackie told this story about how abusive Ed Postma supposedly was to her.
But when Ed arrived in Duet and Michael shot him, all bets were off. Todd explains why he was the one to cut Ed's jugular and finish him off.
He feared for his life. I'd fear for my life too if some, lifelong felon had just shot someone and told me to slit someone's neck.
But after the killing, Todd realizes he's been duped. He now believes that Michael Cordis and Jackie Postma planned to kill Ed from the very beginning.
Well, the testimony out of Todd Martin was that Michael Cordis wanted Todd Martin to have a hand in it and to have his hands dirty, so to speak, to be part of it.
Meanwhile, Michael Cordis continues to proclaim his innocence.
He acknowledged the affair. He acknowledged having gone to Winter Haven in his truck.
Yes, we went out there. I went out there with Todd Martin. I passed out in my truck. Whatever happened, Todd Martin did. And the only witness to contradict that was Todd Martin.
And Jackie? Her story is about to fall apart. Two of her friends contact the cops and say she came to them with a killer proposition.
She had tried to hire some other people to murder him. Instead of her and her boyfriend doing it themselves, they tried to hire someone.
Just go to plan B.
But the would-be killers turn her down.
When the other people found out Ed was murdered, they went to the police and said, hey, this lady tried to hire us to have him murdered. And that's when everything started unfolding.
Police arrest Jackie. The charge, first-degree murder. The Postmas are shocked.
Never would I have thought that she had it in her to do that. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that she would have the coldness in her heart to have been murdered.
Jackie's motive is one of the oldest in the book.
There was a life insurance policy that she stood to benefit from. A divorce wouldn't do that for her. A death would, unfortunately.
Jackie's claims that she was abused by Ed are quickly dismissed.
We found nothing to substantiate those allegations.
She hadn't complained about it to anybody. She hadn't confided in anybody about it. There were no signs of it. There were no reports of it. It was totally contradicted by the evidence.
While in prison awaiting trial, Jackie gives birth to a baby boy. Her sister Lori takes custody of the baby, as well as the other children.
I got down there when he was 8 or 9 days old. We waited for the airline regulation of 15 days old they have to be, and I brought him home.
If DNA testing reveals the baby is Michael Cortis's, it gives Jackie an additional motive to want Ed out of the picture.
So that may have been another impetus to her to have her husband killed before he started seeing signs of a pregnancy.
She goes, in my heart, I know it's Ed's. I said, well, if you were with this guy, how do you know? How do you know for sure?
It was a coin toss. I could never tell which way or the other.
DNA tests prove that Jackie's baby is in fact Ed's, not Michael's. For the Postmas, the news is bittersweet.
He'll never be able to feel his hair, look in his eyes, feel his hands, and be able to tell him how much he loves him.
His son's never gonna know. That's really hard.
10 months after the murder, Todd Martin pleads guilty to being an accessory to murder. He gets 12 years in exchange for testifying against Jackie and Michael. Separate trials for Jackie and Michael begin later that July.
The police had a flurry of phone calls between her and Michael Cortez before the murder and immediately after the murder. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
For Jackie, the most damning evidence is her ill-fated attempt to get 2 outsiders to do the job first.
The woman asked like 2 people like a couple weeks before to have the man killed. I mean, she's not winning awards for Criminal of the Year. At least, wait a while and don't ask friends.
Almost a year to the day after Ed's slaying, Jackie Postma is convicted of second-degree murder.
It carries with it a maximum of life in prison, and that's what she got.
I should hope she'd repent. I really do.
I think she's the most disgusting, vile thing on earth.
Because the gun was never found, the jury just can't prove Michael's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Cortis gets 7 years for violating his parole on an unrelated charge.
And we just sat there. I don't even remember the jury leaving. I don't remember the judge leaving. I don't remember Cord's family leaving. I don't remember anybody leaving. We were just sitting there.
Or a greater man would probably say they could live with it. I guess I'm not that great.
With Michael, it dumbfounded me. But it doesn't surprise me, things happen in court systems.
As a therapist and a mother, this story makes me very angry, because there are a lot of women in this world who would kill to have kids, would kill to have a great man, and she destroyed all of the goodness that had been given to her.
As much as I believe in our system of justice, the fact that Michael is not paying for Ed's murder makes me very angry. It's inconceivable to me that Todd, acting on his own, decided to go out and kill Ed, even if Jackie promised him money to do it. The only connection between Todd and the Postmas was through Michael. So it's inconceivable to me that Michael was not involved in the conspiracy.
Ed's family is still picking up the pieces.
I miss him bad. Miss him real bad. Don't know why anything could have happened to such a good guy like him.
We just never had a chance to get alone where I could grab him and talk to him, to ourselves and go, hey, what's really going on, Ed? I never got a chance to do that.
I tell her youngest son all the time that he looks just like his daddy, and his daddy would love him unbelievably. I tell his daughter that she's the most beautiful thing, and he would be guarding her like a hawk because she's so pretty.
To Carla, it's a life left unfulfilled.
When they were rebuilding motorcycles, when Ren was rebuilding his and Ed was rebuilding his, the game plan was that they were both going to get the bikes up and running, and we were going to go down to the Florida Keys and go camping together. That was the goal. The bikes never got finished.